The power supply unit of your system supplies power to various system components like the motherboard and device drives. The power supply unit converts the incoming alternating current, that is AC, from the power socket in the wall to the direct connect, that is DC, needed by the system. You will mostly find the power supply unit in the top right corner of the system case. The power supply unit generates high frequency signals while converting the electric current from AC to DC. This frequency can harm the system components. To prevent such damage to the system, the power supply unit is packed in a metal box. The form factor of the power supply represents the size and the shape of the power supply. You can use the power supply unit with the form factor that is compatible with the form factor of your motherboard and the system case. Presently, the form factors of the power supply unit commonly used include the AT, Baby AT, and ATX form factors. In this lesson, you will learn how to identify the components of power supply, explain the need for cooling the system, install the power supply and fan, explain the need for UPS, and troubleshoot power supply. Click Next. The components of the power supply include the power switches, power connectors, and the power supply fan. The power switches are used to switch the system's power supply on or off. The power supply unit supplies current to the motherboard and other components of the system using the power connectors. The power supply unit provides power to the various disk drives such as the hard disk, CD, DVD, and the floppy disk drive using the disk drive power connectors. The disk drive power connectors are 4-wire connectors which are attached to the rear of the disk drives. The power supply fan is used for cooling the system. Usually, you will find a power supply fan placed in the rear end of the power supply unit. This fan protects the system components from dust by pushing the air out from the system case. True or false? The power supply unit uses the power connectors to provide current only to the motherboard. Select the correct answer and click Submit. That's right. The power supply unit uses power connectors to provide current to other components of the system as well as the motherboard. A computer system generates heat during operation, which can harm its components. Cooling systems protect the system components from such damage by using various cooling devices and maintaining proper circulation of air inside the system. Click the images of cooling devices to learn more. When done, click Next to continue. To control the flow of air inside the system, the cooling systems use the system case fan and the power supply fan. Proper flow of air not only helps the cooling process, but it also helps keep the system case clean. The design of the system case determines the flow of air inside that system. You can ensure proper air circulation inside your computer system by following certain recommended practices. You should keep the system covered to prevent moisture and dust from damaging the system components. Also, cover all the unused exposed expansion slots and openings such as the drive bays and I/O ports with inserts and tapes. It is recommended to use the ATX form factor system and the power supply unit. The inward flow of air from its power supply unit provides better air circulation. You can also use a larger system case since it allows better air circulation. You should place the system components on drive bays by keeping a distance of approximately 1/4 inches between them. Also, clean the system periodically using a blow dryer to eliminate air blocks caused by dust. Which of the following regulate the flow of air inside the system case? Select the correct answers and click Submit. Sorry, try again. That's not right. The case fan and the power supply fan regulate the flow of air inside the system case. Click Revise to return to the previous topic or click Next to proceed. Next, you will learn how to install the power supply unit in your system. Before going ahead, click Best Practices and Precautions to learn about some of the steps you need to keep in mind while installing the power supply. When done, click Next to continue. Insert the power supply unit in the system case. Ensure that the power supply fan is facing outside the system case. Then, attach the power supply unit to the system case by fixing the screws. Switch on the toggle switch on the power supply unit after you have inserted one end of the power cord to the power supply unit and plugged in the other end in the power socket on the wall. The case fan can either be fixed to the system case with screws or it can be placed in a plastic housing. Next, you will learn how to fit the case fan inside a system case. Before going ahead, click Best Practices to learn about some of the steps you need to keep in mind while installing the case fan. When done, click Next to continue. First, insert the case fan into its slot in the system case. Then, attach the case fan to the system case by fixing the screws. Now, fix the power connector from the case fan to the motherboard. Now that you know how to attach the case fan to the system case, click Next to check your understanding. Which one of the following voltages must the voltage selector switch of the power supply unit be set to? Select the correct answer and click Submit. That's right, the voltage selector switch of the power supply unit must be set to 230 volts. Power failures and fluctuations can damage the components of your PC. Power failures can cause loss of data and corruption of the hard disk due to improper shutting down of the system. You can use an uninterruptible power supply system, that is, UPS system, to protect your computer system from power fluctuations and power failures. A UPS acts as a backup source of power for a computer system in the event of power failure. It supplies power for around 10 to 15 minutes, enabling the user to shut down the system safely. The UPS charges its battery when the system is powered on, and it uses the stored current in the battery in case of power failure. The different types of UPS available include the standby UPS, line interactive UPS, and online UPS. Click the various boxes to learn more. When done, click Next to continue. You must take certain factors into consideration when selecting the UPS for your system. The UPS must be able to handle the load of your system. That means it must be able to protect the size and the type of your system. You must consider the installation location of the UPS since it produces noise at a level between 50 to 60 dBA and also releases heat when it runs. Also keep in mind the cooling facility such as an air cooler needed by the UPS as well as the system. You must also consider the location of batteries of the UPS. Its batteries may be placed in a separate cabinet along with the UPS, or they may be placed inside the UPS itself. Finally, you must consider the efficiency of the UPS, since this determines the operating costs of the UPS. Which of the following can be caused by a power failure? Select the correct answers and click Submit. Sorry, try again. That's not right. A power failure can cause loss of data and corrupt the hard disk. Click Revise to return. The power supply fan of this system does not work when the system is switched on, and it also makes noise. A faulty fan can cause the system to overheat and damage its components. Click Next to learn how to troubleshoot this problem. When troubleshooting, first check if the machine and the monitor have been switched on. The power connector of the system and the peripheral devices are properly plugged in the power supply junction. The monitor's brightness and contrast settings are set at the maximum or minimum limit. The cables of the various input and output devices have been properly inserted in the appropriate ports and sockets. There are no CDs, DVDs or floppies in the respective drives when starting the machine. Then try the following. Restart the machine. Switch the monitor on and off. Adjust the monitor settings. If the fan is faulty, you must replace it right away. But before that, you must first check whether it has stopped functioning due to dust. Which of the following should be used to clean the power supply fan? Select the correct answers and click Submit. That's right. You must use vacuum cleaner or compressed air to clean the power supply fan. In this lesson, you learned how to identify the components of power supply, explain the need for cooling the system, install the power supply and fan, explain the need for UPS, and troubleshoot the power supply. Now that you have